everybody. Welcome back to Everything Hollywood podcast with my friend Larry Namer. Larry, nice to see you again.
Good to be back in studio. Always good to be
Yes,
back in studio.
it's always fun to be in the studio. The remote thing is okay, but not as fun as to be in the studio, right?
No, no. I mean, especially now in LA, when they put back the mask mandates now. In order to get in
Yeah,
a restaurant, you got to show your vax card, which I do have.
yes,
Um,
me too.
and even to the point now where not only do you show your vax card, you've got to show your ID to me, so that they can make sure the vax card belongs to the person who's presenting it and stuff. Because they seem to have had some problems with that. But yeah, being back in studio and not having masks and stuff, it's
Yeah, it's
been
really
good.
nice. Yeah, no, it's good to see you. I know you've been all over the place, so yeah, finally, being able to talk about what's going on, and there's a lot going on. A
Yeah,
lot
big
going
big
on.
week in Hollywood news. Starting with this unbelievable incident on the movie with Alec Baldwin and
Yeah, I
stuff.
mean, how is that even possible, Larry? In 2021, for someone dying on a film set, just to me, feel it's unbelievable. But what do you think really happened in that case?
Well, unfortunately, I do a project. Keanu Reeves, Shannon Lee Bruce's daughter,
Yeah,
Brandon's sister. We've all been involved in the project, and when I look at what happened when he died, which was a real bullet and a gun that was only supposed to have dummy bullets, and you look at it and you say, how in the world could something like that happen? And then to see that people really didn't learn from it. You would think that they would have learned from it and stuff. But, if you have to ask me, there's such a crunch, there's such a problem getting funding for independent films, so that independent filmmakers to get their films made are real, they're overly budget conscious and they're cutting corners, and particularly when it comes to safety. I mean, you look at what the protocols are for having a gun on set, and they had I wouldn't say an unexperienced armorist there, but somebody with not that much experience, and the producers were all looking to get this thing shot in 18 days on tight budgets and stuff, and the safety meetings apparently didn't happen, or at least this is what's being reported. I don't know for a fact. Um, but how does a real bullet get put in a
yeah.
gun and it not be noticed before there's an accident? I don't get it.
But so many things have to go wrong, Larry, for it to get to that point. I mean, okay, if the armor put, a live bullet, then wouldn't the assistant director or somebody else notice it? And then even the actor, how is that it goes through so many levels and things can go wrong? I mean,
There were just so many things that got skipped.
yeah,
Uh, when you put, I mean, first of all, you shouldn't have live bullets in the gun to begin with,
yeah.
unless it was, you needed something where a live bullet was absolutely necessary. But even then, um, there's all kinds of stuff. So a good experienced armorist, well, first of all, they keep that gun under tight lock and key. And this gun was not kept under tight lock and key. So it was out in the open for a long time. Uh, could have been tampered with, maybe not tampered with, but whatever, it should never be left out. And then, when you present the gun with a live bullet, or any gun with not live bullets, you literally go through the crew,
Hmm.
and you have not one person look at it, like everybody takes a look at it and go, okay, it's okay, 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 okay. Um, and then finally, the actor who gets it should finally be checking that gun to make sure he's okay, that there's no live round in there. And somebody said to me that one of the ways that you really got to look at this is you tell the actor, um, saying, okay, if you had to hold that gun to your head and pull the trigger, are you comfortable that this is really not a live round? Uh, and I don't know any actor that's not going to pay a lot of attention, when you kind of put it that way. So there's so many things that could have, should have, been done, and we ended up, it ended up losing the life of this incredibly talented woman who everybody thought was on her way to bigger and better things,
Yeah.
and not just a movie life, but a family life and personal life and stuff like that. So it's an incredible tragedy, and you're starting to see the lawsuits that are following it now.
So, do you think there's some negligence from somebody from on the set? I mean, you mentioned the actor, checking. Do you think in some ways Alec Baldwin should have checked the rounds before firing it? And I don't even know why you would fire it towards someone on the set
Yeah,
and pull the trigger. So,
there's so many questions that need to be answered here, and we don't know enough uh, there, and we're probably not going to know for a while because this is going through trials and
yeah,
lawsuits and stuff. So a lot of stuff won't come out, to the press. But Alec Baldwin was one of the producers, and I think the producers of this film jointly have to take responsibility because they are responsible for making sure that the people that are working on these sets are safe and secure and being treated with um, ultimate care, and it didn't happen. I mean, there's no question that this went wrong, and you got to start with the top. Who are the people that were responsible for making sure this was a safe set? And it starts with the producers.
but do you think, my understanding is in some of the Hollywood movies, if you get a big talent, someone like Alec Baldwin, you put his name as a producer, just as like a vanity producer, because they want to not only be the actor, the lead actor, but because it's a low budget project, they put them as a producer. So, how much do you think? I mean, I don't know if this is the case in this film. Um, I did speak to Joel Souza. He was on my show a while back, and I remember him talking about specifically about this project. It was, he knew Alec Baldwin very well, and he wanted him to be on this film. But I guess my question is, how much in reality, how much Alec Baldwin was aware of what was going on behind the scenes? You
Well,
know?
I mean, you're right. A lot of times people are named producer when they're not really functioning as a producer. But quite honestly, if you're an actor and you're going to push to get a producer title, you've got to take some responsibility for the things that a producer
Yeah,
is responsible for.
yeah.
Um, especially someone as experienced as Baldwin, who's done God knows how many movies and TV shows. He, again, my personal opinion should be much more in tune with what the safety
Yeah.
regulations and requirements are. And, to have a live round and have that gun pointed at somebody on the set, it's just, I don't know how that happens.
And apparently, some people walked off the set. Some of the people that worked on the film, right? The
Yeah.
morning of this incident.
Yeah, there were a lot of things, and again, we're only getting hearsay now, so we don't really
Yeah.
know all the details. But we've heard this story that the crew is actually doing target practice
Mm.
um, in the morning with that gun and others. So yeah, there's live ammo being used that should never have been around. I heard they found 500 live bullets or something. It just shouldn't be. An experienced production team, experienced armorists would never allow that kind of thing to happen.
Well, we have to wait and see if there's any charges. I mean, we have one lawsuit from
Yeah.
someone, within the film, but I don't know if there's any official charges. Hasn't been filed yet,
No,
right?
I don't think they filed criminal yet, but there are civil suits that have started,
Yeah,
wrongful death
yeah.
kind of things. And, it's going to be interesting to see what facts really come out because right now, looking at it, from my perspective, it doesn't make sense. As I look at it and go, how does the live bullet get all the way, in the gun that goes into an actor's hand, and why is the actor pointing at pointing any gun at somebody? I mean, it just there's missing pieces here.
So you don't believe in the conspiracy theory that the armor's lawyers were talking about, that someone maybe wanted to sabotage the set and or the armor and put a live bullet
You know,
in a thing.
it
I don't,
could be,
you know.
like I say, from experienced armorists that I know and I've talked to, is any gun that could shoot live rounds is under lock and key until the time that it's going to be used, and then it's checked by like a dozen people to make sure that it's not going to shoot a live round, and then it should be checked by the actor and uh, stuff like that. And I understand this gun was not under lock and key. And again, I'm telling you what I hear. I don't know it for a fact. Um, and that it was out in the open. And so, could it be a conspiracy thing where somebody put a live round in there? Technically, it's possible. I'm not sure that you know that it really happened, but yeah, a lot more care should have been paid to the safety issues on this set than were paid, and we lost someone who we shouldn't have lost.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that they'll get to the bottom of this. And this is an ongoing story, so we'll just wait and see how it plays out. Because if there's any charges that will be brought against anybody on the set, but I don't think anybody's immune from.
No, I think there was just so many questions and so many things went wrong
Yeah.
that there's a lot of people that are responsible here, not just a person.
Well, moving on from that story, let's talk a little bit about Britney Spears. You know, she's been on the news quite a bit, and her dad is no longer involved in her, being the conservator of her.
I'm really happy for her. Free Britney, free Britney.
Yeah.
Uh, I
You're
think
one of the people picketing outside, right?
I just think it's great that she's now finally free of she's a grown woman and she seems perfectly capable of making her own decisions now, and that the conservative relationship again does seem a little bit abusive. Wasn't necessarily fair to her. People were making a lot of money that I'm not sure that they should have been making off of her, and I'm just glad to see her free of it, and that the judge decided it the way he did.
But I think also a lot of people were surprised to see what that entails
Yeah,
because a lot of people didn't know. I mean, including myself, to be honest with you, I didn't know that she couldn't really do anything.
nothing, nothing. I mean, she was like basically held prisoner and under the terms of this conservatorship, and yeah, I mean, she basically had all her rights taken away, and there was a time where a lot of the things she did, you'd say, geez, what the heck's going on here? And maybe she did need something temporarily to kind of come in until she kind of got
Yeah,
herself and her life in order.
yeah,
I don't disagree with that. I think sometimes you do have those situations. But then I think it went on for a number of years,
yeah.
way longer than it should have gone on. Because she was clearly, or again, clearly, in my mind, she was back in control of herself some years ago,
Yeah,
and the conservatorship should have ended earlier than it did.
I agree. I think a lot of people were surprised how this plays out, which I didn't really know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad she's getting back, control of her own life, and none, I don't want to keep talking about tragedies, but that's what's been happening on the news. I mean, look what's happening at and Texas, with the Travis Scott concert. 8 or 9 people, I think 9 people died,
Yeah.
and hundreds of people are injured. Um, you know, being in the music myself, I think if you're on stage and you're watching people suffer, apparently people were giving signals that there's some issues going on in the
Mm.
audience that the concert should have stopped. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the concert should have stopped. I
Yeah,
mean, at some point where you see that people are being hurt, um, and it's not just one people had a heart issue or anything like that. I mean, it was the actions of the crowd that were causing people to get hurt. I think it really does fall on the performer to
yeah,
just say, hey, stop this right now.
yeah.
This has got to end. I mean, I've seen video of them passing people up through the crowd on top of it to get them out of the crowd and stuff. So he had to know, he had to see, um, just like we got to see, and he should have used better judgment. I mean, I think it should have been stopped, and I think just the whole thing. I heard that he went to Drake's party afterwards and stuff, which is a little bit. When somebody dies at your concert, you really go and party after. Um,
But do you believe the fact that supposedly he didn't know when he went to Drake's party? They're saying that he had no idea, and that's where he found out.
well, if he had no idea, he should have. I mean, because this wasn't like one person got hurt. I mean, you're talking about 8 or 9 people died.
Yeah.
Uh, so my feeling is there's no way that you have 9 people die trampled in the crowds, and that the people in charge of this concert didn't know. Um, you know, maybe as the performer, he wasn't aware of how bad it was, but the people who ran that concert certainly knew that there was something really, really bad that happened there, and it should have been relayed to them. I mean, and they should have stopped this thing way sooner before that many people got hurt.
You mean someone else should have got up on stage? The person who's running the show,
Somebody should have.
say, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, somebody should be in charge. And when you have something where people are dying, um, it shouldn't just keep going on. Go, oh, only one person. Oh, now it's two. Now it's three. It should have been stopped way earlier than it was.
I'm confused too with the COVID restrictions and all of that. I wasn't aware that you can have that many people in that close proximity
Yeah,
to each other, which I'm kind of surprised that
yeah,
that's even happening.
yeah. And from what I understand, um, it's not the first time that there was like problems at a Travis Scott concert. I understand that it's happened before. Certainly not to this degree, but um, you rile up an audience and stuff, and you smash them all into one tight place. Nothing good is going to happen.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I I mean, there's a lot of lawsuits that are coming out already. You know.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more. I mean, another one of these complicated issues that we don't know all the answers.
Apparently, all the personal injury lawyers from all over the country are running to the state of Texas.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunately, something that we do a lot in this country that, really shouldn't be done, ambulance chasing and stuff like that. And we really should be doing I mean, these are kids that died here.
Yeah.
I mean, and,
Yeah.
we have a responsibility to protect not just our kids, but all kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Very sad. Very sad. Now let's talk about something that might be a little bit happier, and that's Squid Games. You know, over at
You mean one of the darkest shows ever?
one of the
to be on
darkest shows
television?
ever. But maybe it's just for the purpose of entertainment, I suppose.
Yeah, it was.
That's being renewed, right, for season two.
I loved it. I thought it was great. It
Yeah.
was one of those things, I like. And when the first time I ever saw Blue Man Group,
Yeah.
I saw it in a little theater in New York on LaGuardia Place, and I think there were 50 seats in the theater. And I just sat there. A friend dragged me to see it. I'm going, why do I want to see a play where there are three guys that are painted blue and they don't speak? I said, how interesting could that be? And then I watched it, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where you just go, like, what kind of mind is
Yeah.
so creative to think, hey, let's paint these guys blue. They won't talk, but the show will be amazing.
Yeah.
With Squid Games, I kind of looked at it the same way. I watched it and I went, oh my God, this is brilliant. I mean, how does someone come up with the concept for, like a Squid Games and stuff? But the big thing is they announced the season two,
Yeah.
and I hear everybody is, going, well, how are they going to do with season two when a lot
Yeah.
of the people died? And,
Yeah.
and I actually have a theory.
Okay.
And I hate to ruin it for people, but then again, I'm not ruining it because I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Um, if you watch the last episode, there was actually a part where they're interviewing uh, these VIPs from around the world, and one guy says to the organizer, the local organizer, the guy with the very different mask, the grayish mask,
Yeah.
says the games here have been the best games in any country we've ever done this in. So my theory is, if I were the producer and I were the writers, I wouldn't try and resurrect this show in Korea again. I would then say, you know what? Let's just have a totally different cast, and
Mm,
let's do Squid Games Brazil, and then let's do Squid Games South Africa or whatever. I would just not try
interesting. Yeah.
and continue from where you left off, but just start the next round of Squid Games in a totally different place with totally different actors. I mean, to
Mm.
me, that would be the logical way to, the creative approach to following up on that. Because I don't know how you can follow up the Korean thing because, all the characters you cared about are dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. So we'll see how, and it's obviously extremely popular, isn't it? Like the number one show on Netflix or one of the top.
It was, from what I hear, it was the number one most popular show on Netflix and stuff. It did amazingly well. Most people I know, everybody I know either liked it
Mm-hmm.
or loved it. I kind of fall into the loved it category, but I don't know anybody who said, "Wow, I didn't like that show at all." And then you just look at Halloween. Squid Game's costumes were the number one Halloween costumes in the
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah.
I even had one. Uh, I bought a red hoodie from Amazon. I got the mask,
Oh, you
and
did? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so I was Squid Game's character for Halloween.
Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have a live guest
We will.
in the studio. So we'll be right back.
Roy Rogers is back. Roy Rogers is Macintosh. He'd been a top hand once. Now he drifted across the West Texas plains with a 14-year-old maverick.
Are you saying I stink?
Well, downwind, you aren't exactly cinnamon and sugar.
And he had a way of finding trouble without half trying.
You young pup, you stole my money.
I didn't take nothing.
Bite size, you better turn them pockets out now.
Wait just a minute. Let the boy explain.
But there was something about the boy that got to Macintosh.
You're too old by 20 years.
This neck is real tight.
So you keep your insides from tearing loose. What's going to keep your bones from getting busted?
Skill?
Nobody can call breaking a wild Mustang an easy job. But an old top hand like Macintosh can at least make it look easy if he survives in one piece. The two drifters thought they'd hit it lucky at the 4-6s, but troubles come big in the big country.
Jim, it's Dawkins. What happened? He nearly took all three of us apart when we went to get him.
A lot of wrong can be done by people thinking they're doing right. Until a man makes a stand.
Stay right where you are.
You should have cut and run, Macintosh.
Roy Rogers, a Western legend, is back in a different kind of role. One you'll never forget. Co-starring Clay O'Brien, the scene stealer from the Cowboys, Joan Hackett, Billy Greenbush, Andrew Robinson, and America's top rodeo star, Larry Mahan. Macintosh and TJ, rated PG.
Hello and welcome back to Everything Hollywood with my
friend
Today we actually were lucky to have a great guest live in the studio.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
one of the the project that we're here to talk about, I mean, it's amazing because it brings me back to my childhood. Roy Rogers was just like, couldn't wait for the new TV shows to come on and the movies to come out and stuff. And Steve, we want to welcome you.
Yeah, we want to welcome Steve Latshaw. He's a producer with Verdugo Entertainment.
That's
Welcome
right.
to the show.
Thank you, Omar and Larry. Great to be here.
So this project is gonna hit the streets in a few weeks, I think, right?
November 23rd. It streets on November 23rd.
Right on my birthday.
Well, we planned it that way.
And so tell us about the project. I mean, when did this kind of get started for you? And then give us a little bit of detail of what, as an audience, we're going to be able to see on this.
Well, we earlier this year we restored and released Roy's final film, a film that a lot of people had never heard of, called Macintosh and TJ, which is a real artful look at actual real cowboy life in Texas. We had great success with that, and we'd also managed to come across a complete print of Roy's first movie starring as Roy Rogers, called Under Western Stars, which was released in 1938. And we thought, what a great pair. We'll put both of those together, his first and his last, and have a nice Blu-ray for the holidays.
And so, but there's actually a little bit of a story about that first movie because he didn't start out as Roy Rogers, right?
No, it was supposed to be a Gene Autry film. And Autry was in a contract dispute with Herb Yates, who ran Republic Pictures. He didn't feel he was making enough money, and he wasn't. And so Gene called up the director, Joe Kane, the night before the shoot was supposed to start and said, Joe, don't expect me on the set. I'm walking. And so Gene took off for the southeastern United States and started doing lucrative personal appearances. Republic, in a panic, sent process servers across the country chasing him. Every new town that Gene would come to, the process servers would follow him into town. The townspeople would surround the process servers and escort them out of the town. And so while Republic's lawyers are chasing Gene all over the South, Republic's, well, we've still got to make this movie. We have a crew ready, we have a cast ready, we have a start date, and we have audiences and theaters expecting this, within a couple of months. And so they decided to take a gamble on a kid they had under contract named Leonard Sly. And Leonard's screen name at that time was Dick Weston. Everybody said, that's bad. We don't like that. And they came up with Roy Rogers. Worked for everybody, and Rogers suddenly found himself on the set of this movie playing a cowboy hero. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Crazy. So he did the TV show. I mean, I remember it just kept going on and on and on. How many movies did he actually do? Feature films?
Oh, you know what? I should have that number in my head. I don't. They generally did about 8 films a year when he was with Republic, and he was with Republic from 1938 through 1951.
Wow.
So did a lot there, and then he started doing the TV show. The interesting thing about the film, Roy was in the group The Sons of the Pioneers. He co-founded it, but he was the comic relief. So this is the first time he's actually playing that hero, Roy Rogers, and he managed to pull it off.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So what would he still remains to this day? I mean, for me, I mean, there was Roy Rogers and there was Gene Autry, and then there was everybody else. Yeah. I mean, what was it about the Roy Rogers character that you think has held up so well?
I think the most amazing thing about him is his relatability. I mean, he was to kids of that era, he was kind of like, he wasn't like a dad figure, like Gene Autry was kind of a dad figure. Yeah. Roy was kind of like the older, cool brother that you like to hang out with, and that would, protect you if you got into trouble. His athleticism, I think, is key. He looked eternally youthful for most of his career. Great singing voice. He had this great, positive, fast-moving attitude, but he was kind of cool. There's a great story about later in his life. Roy's favorite movie was Blazing Saddles, and his favorite scene in Blazing Saddles was the bean scene around the campfire. And his wife, Dale, hated the movie. She thought it was absolutely appalling. And that tells you a lot about both of them. But that also tells you Roy was, at heart, just a kid like the rest of us.
Right. And then he had that great horse.
Oh, yeah. Trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's just talk a little bit about you, Steve, and your background, and how did you come into doing this project. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you started in the business and what is it that you're doing with Verdugo Entertainment?
Well, I started actually as a filmmaker. Directed and wrote a lot of low-budget B-movie features, action-adventure films with guys like, Dolph Lundgren and Jeff Speakman and Jeff Fahey, people like that. And I did a lot of low-budget sci-fi and horror stuff too. But I've always been a fan before I was a filmmaker, and I've always had an affinity for older movies and been a collector my whole life. What I'm doing for Verdugo now is going out and finding these gems, these barn finds that nobody's ever heard of, like Macintosh and TJ, and introducing them to a new audience. But that's the cool thing for me, is to go and find these things and convince my bosses, hey, this might be a great thing for us to restore and put out.
That's very cool. And what's your background in terms of filmmaking? Did you go to school for filmmaking, or did you just kind of decide you
No,
wanted to be?
I wanted to. I started making movies when I was a kid with Super 8, and then I worked professionally in television when I was in high school as a film news photographer for my local station. A lot of mentors, but I went to the school of Fred Olin Ray, who's a director, a well-known director of this stuff in town, and he basically taught me the whole business from start to finish. He taught me how to make a movie in 10 days
Got it.
and make it commercial. So I learned fast filmmaking from him.
Got it. And in terms of collecting, I mean, is there a genre that you collect or a certain type of films? I mean, when you collect, what is it you look for?
Well, this was high on my list. I'm big on westerns. I'm big on classic older horror serials, that kind of thing. I kind of gravitate towards stuff from the 40s to the 70s.
You know, these days, I mean, there have been some modern westerns that have come out, you know, that have been out in the theater or been on TV lately. Over the years, what would you say is the biggest difference in the way that the genre of Western movies has been presented to the audience?
I think the biggest change was probably the revisionist westerns and the spaghetti westerns of the 60s, or and the Italian westerns of the 60s. I shouldn't say spaghetti. That's an old term. The revisionist westerns, I think what we're seeing today is actually a tendency to go a little bit more traditional. I thought Open Range was a great film, but that's 15 years ago. But we are seeing a lot more westerns being made, and I think people are gravitating to the more traditional stories. They want deeper characters. They want deeper character arcs, but the basic beats of the western haven't really changed.
Well, this certainly looks a great combination. Now, when can we expect to see this, and how can people, check this out? Because this, to me, this is amazing. So maybe you can tell us a little bit, when will this open and how we can get hold of a copy?
It's going to be available November 23rd. I'm sure you can get it on, from Amazon and retail, wherever you want to buy it. It will be available across the board on the 23rd. And it's also going to be released down the road on DVD, because there's a certain group of people who love this stuff that are older that might not be into the Blu-rays, and so we want to make it available for that audience as well. And you can always go to our website, verdugoent.com or verdugoent.com, and there's all kinds of information, reviews, trailers, everything you want to look at on that website.
That's good. So, other than Roy Rogers and doing this stuff, what have you seen lately that really you feel is like, wow, this is great TV or great filmmaking?
I just saw the latest Bond film. I saw my first two Bond films in a theater in 1971, so it's a 50-year span, and I thought that was phenomenal. It just, as good as I expected it to be, it exceeded my expectations.
Cool.
Wow. Yeah, have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it, but John has seen it, I think. And so you used to collect Roy Rogers stuff. If I remember, your room was a Roy Rogers room.
Yeah, total cowboy themed room.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
That's wonderful. Well, Steve, we really appreciate the fact that you came by in person, which is really cool.
And brought these beautiful posters.
And brought these, look at this. This is wonderful. And look at the poster. Look how beautiful these posters are. This one, and it's actually double-sided. So thank you very much, Stephen. We will go ahead and put all your information in the description below. But is there social media or something that you want people to follow for your entertainment company? Or
we've got a great Facebook page for Verdugo Entertainment, so people can go there, and they can also go to the website, verdugoent.com.
Very good. Cool. Thank you very much, Steve, for being on the show.
Pleasure.
And we will take a short break, and we'll be right back.
So, before we wrap up, I just want to say, we've had Richie Rich on the show, and he was actually one of our most fun guests, in my opinion.
Yeah.
His project, Beauty Queen, is launching this week. They're going to be opening up, and
Oh,
I
nice.
think they put up a preview video now, and it's btykwn.com. And actually, you could go on now and you can watch the preview video and stuff, and then I think in a week it'll start to populate all the content and stuff.
Nice.
But it's out there. It's, after meeting Richie and talking to Richie, I said this is going to be very different than anything there. And boy, I watched the preview video, and it is different.
I have the privilege to see it as well, and it's amazing. I mean, it looks great.
Yeah. So we should just have people go on there and click the preview video and watch it. And I'd love to get feedback. I'd love to see how people receive it.
Yeah, and we can go ahead and put a link to the website down below for people to check it out. And yeah, we'd love to get some, I'd love to invite Richie again, if possible, to the show to talk about it after it goes live,
Yeah, it'd be fun to let it go live and stuff. And of course, it is global.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the people that they have recruited for the Glam Gang, which Richie talked about, and they now kind of populated the Glam Gang. It's a lot of people are really excited about this. That maybe didn't have a voice in media before and now see this as their voice in media.
I can't wait. I think it's going to be very, very exciting.